This spatial quality you can find replicated all over the world, and I think the reason is that when the testosterone hits, it takes about 4 months, it reformats the brain. So as this said, our brains are our default female brain. So if everyone were XX, the brains would be doing verbals, that is reading, writing, and speaking on both sides of the brain. And all our brains would be connecting the verbals, that's words, on both sides of the brain to the sensorial and emotive parts of the brain, right? And moving all that signaling back and forth on both sides of the brain. But the Y chromosome hits the system, drops the testes, the testosterone shoots through the system, 10 to 20 times the amount of testosterone. And the baby comes out with the right side of the male brain not having verbals. So males are doing their words on the left side, and females are doing their words on the left side and the right side. Okay, so what happened to the right side for the males? What happened was they got more, as they showed you, more visual spatial, more visual graphic, and more spatial mechanical. And they just put them together as visual spatial. So I'll do a little more with it. Visual graphic is more pictures. And in fact, if anyone here has studied what can help prompt males to write better, to write more detail, one of the first discoveries we made in the first pilots was get them to draw before they write, and they will give you more detail. Why? Because if you just give them a verbal prompt, write about what happened over Thanksgiving vacation, since it's coming up. Let's say they come back to school and you say, I want a paper from you on what happened over Thanksgiving vacation. And you give this to all, let's say you have 24 students in your class, 12 males, 12 females. Let's say they're in 4th grade. And you say, I want a paper from you on what happened over Christmas vacation. Okay? Everyone writes. Collect all the papers. It was a verbal prompt, right? It was words. There was nothing visual spatial about it. It was just words. So you collect those papers. There's another thing you can do. Everyone can do this. And you'll tend to notice that there are some guys like me who are very verbal, 26 books, very into words, absolutely. Some of you have a son like that. But also, on this spectrum of 7 billion people in this classroom of 24, there might be 2 or 3 of these guys who didn't write very much. And even if they wrote a good amount of words, they don't have much sensorial detail, like color, like smell, like taste, sensorial detail. And they don't have much emotive detail, relational detail. And then you compare those papers with the 12 female papers, and you tend to see more sensorial detail, more emotive detail, and by the way, you will tend to see more words. How, at the same time, do you close that word gap and that sensorial detail gap and that emotive detail gap? Well, if you say to these kids that any of them, male or female, all these things work with both genders, so there's nothing, this is no versus here. Anyone can do it, but you'll tend to find more boys if you say to them, okay, I want you to write about what happened over Thanksgiving vacation, but first draw a storyboard. So first draw it. So first make it visual graphic. Okay, so what's going on there? You've now said to this guy, and you could have a girl this would work for too, but you will tend to find more guys that this will work for. Why? Because we're not doing verbals on both sides of the brain. We're not connecting verbals to the emotive and sensorials. So if it's just a verbal prompt, I'm going to tend to lose a few more guys. They're going to tend to not produce as much. But if I let it be visual spatial, I've now got their whole brain involved. The verbal part's involved because it's words, and also the visual spatial part's involved. So we believe that's why we see this finding, that we can get guys who are getting C's and D's in classes, and now they draw before they write, they're getting A's and B's, because we're now getting the whole brain involved for these guys. So does that make sense? That's sort of looking from the inside out to try to figure out what's happening here, and then seeing how it practically alters life out here. Like, how can we improve life out here based on knowing this, that the right side of the male brain is hit with these visual graphics and spatial mechanicals.